Let's go to my next talking point. And again, this is going to come up here because I'm looking at the wide receivers who are top 10 in both yards per route and first downs per route versus man coverage on the season among players who have run 150 plus total routes on the year. These are the guys who are in the top 10 on both lists. Stephon Diggs, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Rome Odunze, who we were just talking about those man coverage numbers, Garrett Wilson, and Puka Nacua. So I have some thoughts on these players and the overlap and stuff like that. But and some of these guys are just the superstar receivers this year. But when I throw those names at you, what sticks out to you?
Oh, the quarterback play. These are Diggs in his role in the offense, Jackson Smith-Njigba's role, Amon-Ra's role, AJ Brown. I mean, this is I'm looking up some stuff right now, but I want to know where you're driving this bus because I'm kind of feeling it, Matt. I'm kind of feeling it.
Yeah, the two guys obviously who I think might surprise some people. Maybe Stephon Diggs, who's just been electric against man coverage this season. And you mentioned quarterback play. Drake May has been unbelievable this year, especially on vertical throws. That will come up in another one of my data points too. But truly, some of those throws that he, and again, I'll save that talking point for my third data point because it's gonna come up again. But some of these downfield throws, he's just been so electric. Him and Diggs have a great timing, especially against man coverage. I think their chemistry has been really good. Diggs is still separating extremely well against man coverage. So while he has maybe not had, I mean, last week was a pretty solid week for him, but he had that kind of down week against the Saints. To me, he is still an every week fantasy starter. Loving him. The two guys I think maybe people might be surprised by because, okay, yeah, JSN, we know he has been the best route runner in the league this year. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a star. Puka's a star. A.J. Brown, when they get him the football in man coverage, he's always been one of the best man coverage receivers in the NFL. Odunze and Garrett Wilson might take people by surprise, Ray, but I think that, again, comes back to the man coverage stuff for Chicago. I think Rome has still been good, especially when separating against man coverage. There's still some stuff with those two guys communication-wise in zone coverage that does need to get better that I'm sure Ben Johnson's harping on. But Garrett Wilson's another guy that, you know, if you're a team that has a winning record right now, you can afford to wait on Garrett Wilson. He might even be like a sneaky trade candidate because like a buy low type guy for a manager who's maybe trying to win some games. All right, they have a losing record. They have Garrett Wilson, but they have a losing record. He's sitting on their IR. If you can afford to like wait the next few weeks out while he comes back from an injury, I think Garrett Wilson's been great this year. I love his role in this offense. And again, as I mentioned at the top, it sounds like the Jets are going to, at some point this week, bench Justin Fields, which when the owner of the team is coming out and saying, you see coaches with quarterbacks like that, nobody looks good. He clearly hates Justin Fields playing for his football team. I'm not saying that Tyrod Taylor is going to come in here and like the Jets are suddenly going to be this great offense, but when Garrett Wilson is out there, I think Tyrod Taylor is going to be a little bit more efficient, consistently getting him the football. So, man, we just want to be invested in man coverage beaters. Historically, that is shown to be the best indicator of consistent talent at the wide receiver position. So for Garrett Wilson, a guy who has been awesome this year, if you can buy him on the low while he's hurt, I don't hate that move right now.
Listen, there were some people asking me last week, Ray, is there anybody from the Jets offense, the pass catchers that you want to, Wilson is out. Do we just auto start? And I'm like, no. I don't, I'm no Josh Reynolds, no Arian Smith, none of them, because Josh Reynolds got 9 targets. He got 9 targets and did absolutely nothing with it. The reason why Garrett Wilson was able or is able to thrive in an offense that was not very good, led by a quarterback who is not very good, is because he himself is an incredible talent. He can win against man coverage, right? Zone, it might be tough for Fields or whomever to find the window to get him the ball. But one-on-one, mano-a-mano, Garrett Wilson is winning that matchup more often than not. All we're looking for out of a Jets quarterback, I don't need you to be Drake May. You don't have to be Patrick Mahomes. Just be able to move the ball and matriculate it down the field. Like that's truly what we're asking Tyrod to do. And this team was in 2 games back there. They should have won. They were in, but they allowed 13 points versus the Broncos and 13 points versus the Panthers, but they could not move the ball downfield. If you can wait out Garrett Wilson, here's what I do believe. I don't believe that anybody else is going to threaten this slice of the pie. I do not believe that anybody else in that offense, no running back, no tight end, nor receiver, will threaten. He might be one of those guys that comes back. When he comes back, it's 12 plus targets. Just throw the ball to number 5. I don't care about anybody else. You get the ball to Garrett Wilson. And we did talk about this last week, and it will tie into a data point that I'll talk about a little later. Matt, I'm buying volume. I'm buying volume. When you've got an elite talent that's going to get that type of opportunity, like, things will work out at some point. So I went in a dynasty league. I bought Garrett Wilson. I mean, he's an incredible talent.
Ooh,
We needed a situational change. I was never anti Garrett Wilson coming in this year, but I was very, very anti Justin Fields. And it looks like we're probably going to get that change. Now, to be fair, Tyrod didn't look much better in relief of Justin Fields in that game. But with the full week to prep, just do what Joe Flacco did. Just get the ball out quick, get it to your playmakers, and call it a day.
Yeah, he was fine when he did have to start for Fields the one game when he had the concussion, and that was with Garrett Wilson. Like, look, yeah, as you said, when this offense does not have Garrett Wilson, they're completely banged. There's not there. I'm interested in Mason Taylor, but again, they need the number one target there. They have nothing at the wide receiver position beyond Garrett Wilson. And some of the coolest stuff that Tanner Angstrand was doing was just getting Garrett Wilson activated in these one-on-one man coverage situations. So yeah, Garrett Wilson says he's hopeful for week 8. So it might even be like this week that he plays. And I just think that Tyrod Taylor is going to be better for him than Justin Fields from a fantasy football perspective. Is going to be better because we've seen. It's funny, like if you're the old classic line I say all the time that Sigmund Bloom says, you can be right and wrong about the same player in the same season. And with Garrett Wilson, that has definitely been the case. Because if you were like me and you're just like, hey, just bet on Garrett Wilson's talent,
right.
There are weeks where you looked super right. And then if you're like you and like, it's Justin Fields, what are we talking about here? That game across the pond against the Broncos, you're like, yeah, brother, that's what I'm talking about. Like the guy's got minus 10 net passing yards over there in another country. So yeah, I think with Taylor, we might just have a bit steadier level of production throughout the course of the season. But yeah, let's stick with Ohio State wide receivers and go to your third data point here for the week, Ray Garvin.
Well, let's talk about something interesting I saw on social media, Matt. I don't know if you saw this tweet from a good friend from the space, from the industry, Marcus Mosier. He said, we're going to create a new metric, a new stat, and it was true passing yardage, okay? So it's the receiving yards plus the yards that were gained through defensive pass interference calls, okay? So just encompassing all of that stuff together. And when you look at this list, there are a variety of wide receivers that are on this list. But in particular, inside the top 10, you see names like JSN and Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase. Christian McCaffrey is also in there, running back. But right there, number 9, Chris Olave, right? So 440 true receiving yards. And this was pending Monday Night Football. But he's got 500, what Marcus called true yardage, receiving yards plus DPI yards. And we talked about Olave and the volume, the offense, Spencer Rattler. Did we bet on it? Well, if you did last week, he paid off to the tune of 2 touchdowns, almost 100 yards, 5 receptions. But this thing is that this fundamental truth still remains in New Orleans. It's consolidated as hell. It's Olave and it's Rashid Shaheed, and they're playing with the quarterback that absolutely will put the ball in any type of way, harm's way, good way, bad way. Spencer Rattler's a fun player, and he's going to give his receivers a chance. I started looking up some of the target rates with Olave. To your point, man coverage, 100% target rate versus man coverage in week 7. If he was lined up one-on-one and it was man coverage, we're getting the ball to Chris Olave. 9th highest overall usage score amongst wide receivers in our Trinity model. Like, this is Chris Olave's talent has always been there. It's been the quarterback problem and sometimes his ability to stay healthy. But you see this on the screen. Second in second in targets, something, what was that? Second in targets on the season. Like, this is
second in targets.
This is a player, 68 targets, second in the NFL, 47 of those catchable targets. This is a quiet, like, I don't want to say star this year in 2025, but man, he is shining without making a lot of noise. There's not a lot of attention around Chris Olave, and I still think that there are ways to acquire him this year with some other bigger names who may not be producing as much. Like, if I just asked you right off the rip, like, Who do you have more confidence in moving forward this season? Not Dynasty, Tedero McMillan in his situation or Chris Olave? Can you make a pivot there? If there's some people out there, Matt, that may not truly be buying in to Travis Hunter's new role potentially, can you use that game and the failures of Brian Thomas early to be like, hey, can I trade my Hunter to maybe grab a player like Chris Olave? I just want to shine some light on a receiver who is quietly just playing really, really good ball, and he's a plug-and-play starter for you. And then when you get these type of weeks where he gets the touchdown or two, you're feeling great about somebody like Olave.
I mean, you're speaking my language with a lot of different things here. First of all, can we pull that Marcus Mosher tweet back up and show the graph there of the true yardage? Number one, Marcus Mosher, for people who don't know, he covers the Cowboys. So George Pickens leads this true yardage metric. So I believe we know why Marcus decided this is a good idea to come up with this metric. But I actually do like it. And it also kind of it helps pump up Marvin Harrison too, who's the other wide receiver in addition to George Pickens that has over 100 DPI yards added here. There is nothing more annoying than when a receiver runs a great route and then like gets the ball's underthrown and then gets interfered with, and you're just like, oh my God, like that was about to be a great big play. And it's never going to be remembered in the stat sheet, but you know, as the guy that's trying to isolate wide receiver play and like credit these guys, like, oh my God, that's so frustrating. So I'm very much in favor. I'm all in on George Pickens this year. I'm very much in favor of the metric that Marcus Mosher has put together here. On the Chris Olave stuff in particular, yeah, this is something I've been harping on for weeks, man, that his role is awesome in this offense. I love the way they've weaponized him. Week 2, I wrote up a whole thing on reception perception about like how different his role was this year versus years past when he was especially when old Pete Carmichael was the play caller for this team. And it was just this ancient, archaic, made for Drew Brees offense. But you got Derek Carr running it. No disrespect to Derek Carr, but we're talking about different levels to this whole thing. So Olave going from like a static vertical receiver in that one to this like kind of weaponized. He had a bunch of targets from the slot this past week, all of the motion. My thing with him was where we needed to see improvement was in two areas. One, him specific, one kind of him and Spencer Rattler specific. I liked their connection on these quick out routes early this season, but we didn't see them hit quite the same on those vertical in breakers. We saw that big time. Look, Rattler wasn't perfect. He threw 3 damn picks against this game, but then Week 7, we saw him hit those big in breakers. Those guys were on time, on the money there. That was encouraging. And then the second thing that's more Olave focused, and this is just like an overall lesson about wide receivers. He was not coming down with these like very small losses in contested situations. Like his contested catch rate was not good. It wasn't like true drops. You know, he's just wide open and the ball's clanging off his hands or anything. It's just these tight coverage, contested catches, small misses. He wasn't coming with those. And when that happens, like fans of the team are going to kill him on social media. They're going to he's going to get a bunch of hate for it. But that stuff's noisy, especially within the course of one season. And if you know that a guy has good hands and he's tough at the catch point, I think you just kind of fade that noise. Same stuff's kind of going on with Rome a little bit in times this year with contested catches. And Olave, like we saw that correction big time last week, several big time contested wins. So yeah, I would rather have Olave than T-Mac the rest of the season. I'm excited about what I saw from Travis Hunter last week, but I think Olave's safer, just because I know he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver on his team and all that stuff. That could be wrong, and I'm really excited about Hunter right now. But yeah, I'm loving what I'm seeing from Olave this year for sure. And I also love Ray. Last point on this, and I know I was just yakking a bunch about Olave, but the Saints, there were all these rumors about, hey, are they trying to trade Chris Olave? And then basically Diana Rossini from The Athletic reported, no, they're actually trying to extend Chris Olave. And he said after the game, yeah, no, we've been having these conversations for like a year now. That's what they should be doing. Like, why would you let this guy walk out of the building? He's a good player in a cool role in your offense, and you're trying to develop either this young quarterback or a new one next year. So, yeah, Olave, I'm really liking him as a buy in fantasy and dynasty, all the things right now.
100%. And I think sometimes that's what we're here to do. Just highlight, because he's not the shine on the Olave name. It's not the same anymore, right? Like, no one's really beating down your door to get Olave, but when you see the usage as consolidated as it is, and then where he's succeeding, this is how you gain that edge. You're like, you know what? I've seen it all week, all season long. It was his first 20-point fantasy week. He's going to stay in this role. He's healthy. He's playing well. He's the primary. Like, this is how you sneak like a really good player on your roster. And listen, the Saints are probably going to be playing from behind quite a bit. So they're going to continue to throw the ball, and he'll be a primary option.
Yeah, one thing I learned in the offseason this year, putting any Chris Olave tweet out, or doing my top 15 wide receivers under 20, everybody's like, oh, he sucks. Like, he sucks. People legitimately thought he was bad. It's just, no, he just getting concussions, and he had, kind of a weird relationship with his last quarterback. So, yeah, people definitely were very down on him this year, and he's been a great, great pick in drafts this year. For my third data point, I kind of want to have a discussion about this stat, but I really just wanted to share it with you because it's about our good friend Kayshon Boutte here. I want to know which of these big play bros at the wide receiver position can be more of a full field threat. So these are the wide receivers with an explosive play rate that's 16 plus yards according to True Media, better than 25%. Again, this is just guys who have run 150 plus routes this year. Kayshon Boutte leads all wide receivers with 52% explosive play rate this year. The next highest guy is Marvin Harrison Jr. at 30%. Then we've got Jackson Smith and Jigba. We've got Tyquan Thornton, 29.6%. We've got DK Metcalf, 27.8%. We have JSN at 27.4%, which, by the way, just to speak to how much of a stud JSN is, he's also earning a first down on 19% of his routes. He's the only one of this cohort that's higher than 10% first downs per route run. Just absolutely having a monster season. Justin Jefferson, 26%. Devontae Smith, 26%. Cortland Sutton, 26%. So these are all the guys that are above 25%. But number one, had to share this Kayshon Boutte stat with you because I just feel like we had the funniest discussion about Kayshon Boutte not long ago, and at the beginning of the season after week 1, where you were like, hey, trust the usage, he's out on the field, he's running all the routes, he's getting these targets, and I was like, I just don't know, I think he's going to be very volatile. And the production for Boutte, he's since that game has never had more than 5 targets, and he had a stretch of game where he went 16, 28, 18, 43 receiving yards, and then these last 2 games, 93, 2 touchdowns, 55, 1 touchdown. So I think we just nailed who Kayshon Boutte is, both from you from a usage perspective and me from a player perspective. But my God, dude, the amount of downfield plays this guy is making right now, he has been awesome on these downfield plays. And Drake May, he could not walk the ball down to the field better. Like he couldn't walk the ball and put it in Boutte's hands better than it's been from a ball placement perspective. So these 2 guys are on fire right now.
I mean, at the end of the season, our shtick this year on this show, it's Diggs and Boutte. It's Boutte and Diggs. I mean, that just somehow we're going to talk about those 2 receivers all season long. And to answer let me answer this. Let me just address it this way. Of all the receivers that you listed, and I'm not going to include Tyquan Thornton because we know he's kind of a part-time player, especially with Worthy and Rice back. I would take every receiver that you listed over Kayshon Boutte on a week-to-week start. I'm starting Smitty, I'm starting Sutton, all those guys. But when you're just talking about the big play receiver and fulfilling that big play opportunity, it's probably Boutte because that's the role he has. That's the role. He doesn't have the underneath role. He's not going to be the chain mover, the shorter. Yes, he can do that at times, but he's their big play guy. They're taking shots to him down the field. I think you said it last week to a degree. It's when he's feasting, it's great because it's big downfield shots. It's probably a touchdown. It's a lot of yards, but he's just, all he's getting is the main course, right? He's just getting the piece of the steak, right? He's not getting the broccolini. He's not getting any of those beautiful whipped mashed potatoes with the chives on top. He doesn't get any. He doesn't even get the bread that they bring to the table before you eat. He just gets meat. That's all Boutte gets is meat. Meat and Boutte. That's all he's getting, all right? So, yes, he's probably going to be able to fulfill this big play downfield role. But the other guys are they're more consistent fantasy producers. They do more. They do a lot more. This is interesting that he's up that high. So is he better than JSN? No. Is he better than Devontae Smith? No. But the role in which he occupies, he's their home run threat. He's their downfield option. And I don't think weeks 8, 9, 10, and beyond that those things are going to change. I know Boutte got the touchdown. He got the big play. But you go back and look at the box score. It was Diggs that had, 7 for 69. There's just A lot of references this show. Diggs and all this stuff and Boutte. And yes, I think he's got the big play role. He's got the big play role.
Well, I'll just say this. If I'm going to dinner and all I'm getting is steak, I'm fine with that. I don't need to be loading up on any mashed potatoes. I am a protein guy. Okay, so if me and Kayshon Boutte want to sit down and split a big ass porterhouse, I'm cool with that. You're down. You and Diggs can load up on the carbs. Not me, pal. We're bulking. All right. But in terms of the matchups, the next coming weeks, like this one, week 8 against Cleveland, we'll see. Denzel Ward is a great perimeter corner, and Stephon Diggs travels around so much, so we'll see if that happens. Same with week 11 when they get the Jets. Like, is that going to be Sauce Gardner on Kayshon Boutte, or is he going to be the quote nominal number 2? The problem, and this is where the volatility comes from, is that he just plays X. He doesn't move around, whereas Diggs gets to do the move around fun stuff. Even Mac Hollins is kind of like a big flanker guy that they move around a little bit. So yeah, that's again where the volatility is going to be. But I'll tell you what, and I've started him the last 2 weeks when I've needed him for bye weeks because he's just on the field all the time, and he's on the field all the time. And he's playing with a damn good quarterback. So you could do a lot worse than Kayshon Boutte.
I don't think I need to say. I'm looking at the YouTube comments. I think I'm done talking about this topic. I agree with you. I'll let my previous statement speak for itself. I'm done. I agree.
I think that's probably a safe bet. All right, let's go ahead and get to break here before we set off the YouTube chat anymore. We've got some other big topics coming up. We will get into those right after this quick break. We are back here. Ray Garvin, we're continuing to go through the data points that people need to know heading into week 8. Give me your next one up here, the Bucs wide receiver core.
Yeah, I mean, we all saw it. We watched. I think people stayed up at least for the first game, but the second game a little late. But we saw Mike Evans, excellent wide receiver, right? Out, broken collarbone, I believe, has been confirmed. Ibuka, somehow that hamstring healed up enough. All I cared about, Matt, I didn't care about what. I just wanted him to finish the game. Just finish the game healthy. He got out of the game healthy. Is it next man up? Like this is more of a conversation that I want to have with you and see what the people in the chat say. Is it next man up? Because if I just told you, hey, Matt, hey, people in the chat, would you want the wide receiver 2 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I think most people would probably be like, yeah, I wanted the wide receiver 3. Yeah, you're telling me I'm getting the 2 paired with Baker Mayfield? I would like that. But then you say that 2 is a 5'9", 160-pound receiver. That was a 7th round pick. Now, that 5'9", 5'10", 160-pound receiver ran 40 routes to Ibuka's 44, second on the team in targets. He's been playing in this offense for multiple weeks, so it wasn't like he just came out of nowhere. He's been on the field, running routes, getting opportunity, their downfield threat, and he plays like a different. He plays all over. It's weird how they can interchange. You would think Ibuka is going to be this power slot. He's lined up on the outside. You would think Tez Johnson is a slot. He's lined up on the outside. So 3 straight games over 10 PPR points. A lot of high ADOT stuff. And had Baker Mayfield had his contacts in, his glasses on, Tez Johnson probably could have had a 100-yard day and 2+ touchdowns.
Yeah.
Godwin likely not returning week 8. That's just early rumor is he and Bucky Irving probably not looking on track here for week 8. They do have a week 9 bye. But are you buying into Tez Johnson here in 2025 for this Bucs team? And a lot of people, Matt, are just coming back, when Godwin's back, he's just going to eat that roll up. This was the same Godwin that had to leave again because the injury that he was injured with wasn't all the way right. I'm just having a hard time buying Godwin coming back and being better magically. This is not dynasty value. I can't tell you what he's going to be next season. But if you just told me, Ray, you're getting the wide receiver 2 for Tampa Bay, I would be in on that. And I'd venture to say that while he may not be as available as Kyle Monungai, he's probably widely available. He still has Baker Mayfield. They've got the Saints this week. I mean, is this a sneaky spot for Tez Johnson to do it again?
Tez Johnson, 18% rostered right now here again, Tuesday evening. So if you're listening to this the next day, he's obviously been added a good bit. But nevertheless, still 18%. And yeah, dude, like I think he can definitely have a good game against the Saints this week. And they've given it up to receivers. And I love your point about how they just blur the lines between who's the slot and who's not in this offense. Like they move these guys around so much. And Tez is such a wonderful fit in this offense. So I think for people who might not be familiar with Tez Johnson, he's a rookie 7th rounder here. I think people have gotten to know him because of the viral MVP clip. There was also a great clip. I don't know if you saw this one. I think this might have been on Good Morning Football, but Sterling Shepard, my good pal Sterling Shepard, was talking about, he's like, man, Emeka Egbuka, this guy's a pro. He's wise beyond his years. I'm paraphrasing. He's wise behind his years, all that. He's like, I never got to worry about that guy. And then he, without being prompted, he goes, but Tez, I gotta be on that, young man, which I thought was I just thought that was funny. But clearly a young player that they're invested in. I thought Tez Johnson, as a prospect, I had him as like an early day 3 type guy. He went in the 7th round, which was kind of crazy. I'm always going to be wary of the slight receivers being long-term guys that can have a lot of volume, right? I mean, Tank Dell, who was a popular comparison to Tez Johnson. Tank Dell went from being like, oh, this is why you take these outliers to, oh, that's why it's a cautionary tale with the size stuff because of the injury very, very quickly. But Tez, I think, was unfairly docked because of his combine workout, Ray, which was, I was tweeting with Steve Palazzolo about this last night. He was listed at 154 pounds, and then he runs a 4.51, which is just not that fast relative to that size. But Tez told us 2 weeks ago, remember, he comes out in the media and says he weighs 142 pounds, which is like, yeah, he decided that he was going to bulk up to some BS 154 playing weight, 12 pounds over what he is right now, which obviously slowed him down. Like, you can't watch that guy on Monday Night Football get open last night and tell me he runs a 4.51. I don't think so. That is a much faster player than a 4.51 type guy. So I think Tez has legit speed. He knows how to get open against zone coverage. That was something from his reception perception prospect profile that stood out. Now, with the size, he's going to get swallowed up against man press, but this offense moves guys around so much. So, yeah, I think with Godwin out this next week, this matchup against the Saints, I definitely think that Tez Johnson's in fantasy consideration.
Yeah, and I think it's that versatility, right? If you go back and you watch that game, they would motion him a ton. There was one play Baker had missed him high on an outside sideline throw. It was 3rd and 8, and they're in man coverage because he runs like a dig route across the field, like a crosser dig. And I mean, he's just cooks the defensive back off the line of scrimmage. It's one of those things where I wouldn't want to just see him aligned somewhere where they can get hands on him. If they can get hands on him, I think they could reroute him, throw off the timing. But if they're going to move him around, motion him, give him some of those free releases, I never would have imagined a world where Baker Mayfield would be led by 2 rookie wideouts, and Sterling Shepard will be out there as well. Shep had a bad fumble in that game.
Mm-hmm.
If you buy into Baker Mayfield, being one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, then I think you kind of have to buy into Tez Johnson. And at 18% rostered, I'd absolutely be putting a waiver claim in for him. We've talked all show. Either I want all the usage or I want to buy into pieces of good offenses. This is a good offense. And without Bucky Irving, they haven't done a great job running the ball. He's going to get his opportunity. You know, I always say this, Matt. I'm just looking for players that have an opportunity to get me an opportunity to score some fantasy points. And if I just told you name and draft capital unseen, you're getting the number 2 option for Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think everybody would be like, yeah, I want that guy.
Yeah, and again, I would just say forget about the draft capital. Like, he was not a 7th round talent. He was much better than that.
No.
And this room is this room is uniquely deep. I mean, we've completely forgotten about like Jalen McMillan. Like, I mean, that guy was. I've got my problems with him as a player, but he's a useful number 3 receiver. He's set to come back off the bye. So this is definitely, I think, the deepest receiver room in the NFL, because we're talking about like Tez Johnson here making plays, and he would, I guess, if everybody's healthy, which they're not going to be, but if everybody was healthy, it'd be Egbuka, Evans, Godwin, McMillan, Shepard, Tez, like this wide
Yeah.
receiver 6.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just pretty crazy. But I think he's a legit fantasy starter this week for all the reasons that you laid out there. So that was a really
Agreed.
good case by you. I'm going to go to another deep wide receiver room, and I'm going to make the case that this guy, who's a little bit more of a known player, but not someone we usually consider a fantasy starter, I think week 8 fantasy starter Alec Pierce has just been better than people realize this year. So Alec Pierce right now, I'm going to make the case and you tell me if you buy it. Alec Pierce is being targeted on 19% of his routes, and he's averaging 2.22 yards per route run. Easily both career highs for Alec Pierce. Now, his air yards per target is still north of 21 for the second straight year, which that's absurd. It's crazy high. It's one of the highest marks for any wide receiver, if not the highest mark for any wide receiver who's a regular playing time guy in his offense. However, there's definitely a difference in his usage, and in my opinion, based on my charting work, a difference in how he's winning as a route runner this year. Career high per True Media in terms of crossing routes at 16%, and a career low go route rate, which is 20%. That's still rather high, but it's lower than what it was the last 2 years. He's also got a career high 25 yards per game on targets and catches in between the numbers. And this is where it's different than previously. Pierce used to just be go routes, sideline, perimeter stuff. I think you've seen him take a step this year in terms of winning on these big dig routes, overs, the crossers that we just mentioned, deeper in routes, kind of in the same way that like Cortland Sutton maybe developed at some point in his career, where he became one of these great dig route runners when you're used to just be a boundary X receiver. So I think Pierce has definitely he's not the same guy that we remember from the last couple years. And then this week, he also has a great matchup. This is why I like him as a starter this week. The Titans, who the Colts are going to be playing this week, allow the most yards per target on throws between 10 and 19 air yards at 11.3, and the fifth most on throws of 20-plus air yards, 17.5, according to Fantasy Points data. And finally, Ray, if you don't like any of those stats, the analytics, any of that stuff, he's just hashtag due. Okay, sometimes we make this harder than it is. Pierce is hashtag due. He is one of just 5 wide receivers with 300-plus yards in the season who hasn't scored a touchdown yet. The other guys are Ricky Pearsall, Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Stephon Diggs. So my prediction is that Pierce, fantasy starter this week, and he scores his first touchdown of the year against the Titans.
Well, I'll just have to start by saying that I don't know who Alec Pierce is, but I damn sure know who Antoine Pierce is, and that's what he's morphed into this year. This is Antoine Pierce out here balling out. And if I just told you who leads the Indianapolis Colts in usage, you would think Tyler Warren or Michael Pittman. No. I know he's played in 2 fewer games, so the raw numbers are they're not comparable, right? But on a per game basis, it's the number 1 leader in usage on that team. When I'm looking at the Trinity, number 1, ahead of Tyler Warren and ahead of Michael Pittman. No touchdowns. He's below the line. Players that are used in his range should be scoring a little bit more, but he's occupying some really good roles. And the theme of this show, good offenses. I want pieces of good offenses.
Exactly.
This is one of the best ones. It's one of the best ones. And they use all the receivers. Like, it feels like Michael Pittman is finding his role as well. He's a quick outlet option for Daniel Jones. He's going to be a red zone threat. I love the hashtag. He is due. Alec Pierce is absolutely due for his moment where he scores. And it feels like he's one of those players where the points come in bunches too. Like, he doesn't just get 1 TD in the game. He's got 2 because he's a really good downfield option. And if we started to lump those sort of players together, I guarantee he'd be at the bottom of everyone's list. They'd want Jamison Williams ahead of him and give me this other receiver who's got big. It's because he's Alec Pierce, right? Alec Pierce on the Daniel Jones Indianapolis-led Colts. But I'm with you. This is Matt. I think he's absolutely a fantasy starter. Absolutely a fantasy starter. You know, we can go through a litany of names that I know people are rolling out there every week with their fingers crossed. When this guy's got some tangible data behind, they've got a role in which they use him, and when they throw him the ball, he's pretty damn good.
Yeah, and he's someone that like I bought in Dynasty, like just as a throw in a trade. traded away Dylan Gabriel to get a third in next year's draft, and just throw Alec Pierce into the mix. Superflex league, just throw Alec Pierce into the mix there, because I think he's a free agent at the end of this year, and I bet he's going to get paid more money than people think. And lastly, just on the point about Antoine Pierce, he's a crazy athlete, by the way. I think people forget about this. 86th percentile height, 80th percentile arm length, and you see that when he goes and wins those contested passes. 81st percentile 40-yard dash, 93rd percentile vertical jump, 88th in the broad. So he is definitely finally turning those athletic gifts into more of a full-field receiver. So definitely something I think check in on him in Dynasty is kind of an included guy, because I think there's some stability here.
Matt, let me just ask you this. If all these numbers were the same, but the player was Adonai Mitchell, how would people feel? You see what I'm saying?
Such a good point.
If it were 80 Mitchell that was commanded a 19% targeted on his routes, if this just touched, it would be his day is coming. Be on, go get 80 Mitchell. It's because he's just Alec Pierce, and I'm just calling it how it is,
Such a good point, 100%. Because 80 Mitchell, second-year receiver who is really talented. But that's the funny thing. Alec Pierce was a really talented prospect that went in the second round, just like 80 Mitchell did. Now Mitchell fell because of off-field stuff, and obviously he's not ingratiated himself well with his current team after he was a healthy scratch a couple weeks ago. But such a good point. People would be all over this. He'd be a top 20 dynasty receiver if he was at 2.2 yards per route run, 19% targets per route run. So sometimes these guys are just slower burns, and I think Pierce has been a slower burn, but he's just playing really well right now. So definitely wanted to give him a shout out. I do think he's a guy, last I checked, was super available in Yahoo leagues as well. I can look this up real quick on the fly because I got this page up. So stall. Yeah, 10% rostered right now in Yahoo leagues. So definitely someone you could pick up off the waiver wire and start this week. Yeah, if this was 80 Mitchell, no shot he'd be 10% rostered. That's a great way of framing it.